Right now, in driveways and garages all across this country, Ford owners are quietly destroying their EcoBoost engines. And the worst part, they are doing it while trying to save money. I am talking about a $15 decision at the parts store that is directly responsible for some of the most catastrophic engine failures I have seen in 15 years of working on Fords. Turbo failures, cam phaser disasters, sludge buildup so severe the entire engine had to be replaced. All of it traced back to one moment at the oil shelf. Today, I am going to show you exactly what that mistake is, why it is so destructive, specifically on EcoBoost engines, and what you should be using instead. We are also going to cover the 4 other oil-related mistakes that Ford owners make constantly, mistakes that compound the damage and accelerate the timeline from a healthy engine to a dead engine. Mistake number 3 is one that even experienced mechanics get wrong, and it is costing people thousands in turbocharger replacements. And mistake number 1, the big one, is something Ford's own dealer network is partially responsible for, and they have never been upfront about it. Pay close attention. If you own an EcoBoost engine, whether that is the 2.7, the 3.5, or the 1.5 or 2.3 in the smaller models, this video is going to save you serious money. Let us get into it. Mistake 5, buying the cheapest oil on the shelf. Let's start with the foundation of everything. That $15 jug of conventional oil sitting at eye level on the AutoZone shelf looks fine. It says 5W30 on the label. The price is right. For a lot of engines, it would be adequate. But for a turbocharged EcoBoost, it is one of the most destructive choices you can make. Turbocharged engines run at significantly higher operating temperatures than naturally aspirated engines. The turbocharger on a 3.5-liter EcoBoost can spin at up to 170,000 revolutions per minute and reach exhaust temperatures above 1,700 degrees Fahrenheit. The oil has to lubricate turbo bearings that are spinning at those speeds while simultaneously carrying heat away from components that could otherwise cook the oil into a thick black varnish. Conventional oil simply cannot handle this. The molecular chains in conventional oil break down under sustained high heat. When those chains break down, the oil loses its viscosity, its film strength collapses, and instead of protecting metal surfaces, it starts depositing varnish and sludge on them. The turbocharger bearings are the first casualty. They need clean, full viscosity oil at all times. The moment you introduce degraded, heat-broken conventional oil into that bearing housing, you are starting a clock on that turbo. I have pulled turbos from EcoBoost engines where the bearing housing was completely coated in hard varnish deposits. The shaft had developed play because the bearings were starved of proper lubrication. When I asked the owner what oil they had been running, every single time it was cheap conventional or a low-grade conventional blend. Ford specifies full synthetic oil for all EcoBoost engines. This is not a suggestion buried in fine print. It is a hard requirement. The 2.7-liter and 3.5-liter EcoBoost engines require SAE 5W30 full synthetic that meets Ford's WSSM 2C945A specification. You will see that specification printed on the label of approved oils. If the oil does not list that specification, it does not meet Ford's standard for these engines. Full synthetic from a reputable brand runs between $25 and $35 for 5 quarts. That is $10 to $20 more than the cheap conventional. But a turbocharger replacement on an EcoBoost F150 can cost between $1,500 and $2,800 in parts and labor. The math is not complicated. Stop buying the cheap oil. It is the most expensive decision you can make. Mistake 4, extending oil change intervals beyond what EcoBoost engines can tolerate. The oil life monitor in your Ford is a sophisticated system. It tracks mileage, engine temperature cycles, idle time, and driving conditions to calculate when your oil actually needs to be changed. It is not just a mileage counter. In theory, this means you can go longer between changes when conditions are mild and shorter when conditions are severe. Ford's stated interval for EcoBoost engines under the oil life monitoring system is up to 10,000 miles. Here's the problem. That 10,000 mile interval was developed assuming you are running the correct full synthetic oil, that your engine is in perfect health, that you are doing primarily highway driving, and that the oil level is being checked regularly between changes. Most owners are not doing all of those things. For EcoBoost engines specifically, the 10,000-mile interval is pushing the absolute limits of what the oil can handle. There is a characteristic of direct injection EcoBoost engines that makes oil degradation happen faster than Ford's algorithm fully accounts for. These engines use gasoline direct injection, which means fuel is sprayed directly into the combustion cylinder rather than into the intake port. That increases efficiency, but it also allows fuel to wash past the piston rings during cold starts and mix with the crankcase oil. Over thousands of miles, this fuel dilution accumulates in the oil and weakens its protective qualities. The result is lower viscosity, reduced film strength, and less protection for engine components. Fuel dilution matters. At 10,000 miles, the oil in a heavily driven EcoBoost can have enough fuel dilution and thermal degradation that it is no longer providing adequate protection. The turbocharger is typically the first thing to suffer. Next are the cam phasers, which are extremely sensitive to oil quality and pressure on these engines. The safest interval for EcoBoost engines driven in normal mix conditions is 5,000 to 7,500 miles. If you do a lot of short trips, tow frequently, or live in extreme heat or cold, stay at 5,000 miles. If you do mostly highway driving with a healthy engine, 7,500 miles is acceptable. But that factory 10,000 mile interval is the outer edge, not the target. Treating it as the target and stretching it further accelerates wear on every oiled component in the engine. If you have been running extended intervals and your engine has started making a slight rattle on cold starts, that is an early cam phaser warning. Change your oil immediately with full synthetic and watch whether the rattle clears within the first minute of running. If it does not clear within 60 seconds, have the cam phasers inspected before the problem escalates into a full timing system replacement. Mistake 3, using the wrong oil viscosity for the season or the engine generation. This is the one that catches even experienced mechanics off guard, because Ford has changed the recommended viscosity across EcoBoost generations, and it has created a lot of confusion. Using the wrong viscosity is not a minor inconvenience. It is a direct cause of premature wear on the components most critical to EcoBoost longevity. Here is where it gets complicated. The early 3.5-liter EcoBoost, the twin turbo engine introduced in 2010, was originally specified for 5W30. That was the standard recommendation across most of the Ford lineup for years. Then Ford updated their recommendation for the second-generation 3.5-liter EcoBoost, introduced in 2017, to 5W30, but with a revised specification that favors oils with a slightly different additive package. The 2.7-liter EcoBoost has its own specification, and the high-output 3.5-liter EcoBoost found in Raptor models has even more specific requirements due to the higher performance demands. The issue is not just picking the right number off the shelf. A 5W30 from one brand may meet Ford's spec, while a 5W30 from another brand does not, even though both labels look identical to a casual shopper. The difference is in the additive chemistry. Ford's WSS M2C945A specification includes requirements for anti-wear additives, oxidation inhibitors, and friction modifiers that are specifically formulated for the demands of turbocharged direct injection engines. Not all 5W30 oils are built to that standard. Brands that consistently meet Ford's specifications include Motorcraft, which is Ford's own oil brand and the safest choice, as well as Mobil 1 and Pennzoil Platinum, both of which produce oils that carry the Ford specification. When you are at the parts store, flip the bottle over and look for WSS M2C945A printed on the back label. If it is not there, do not use it in your EcoBoost. There is also a cold weather consideration. In climates that drop below 0 degrees Fahrenheit regularly, some owners see better results with 0W30 full synthetic, which maintains better cold start flow than 5W30. Cold starts are the most damaging part of any engine's operating cycle because oil pressure takes a second or two to build after the engine cranks. Thinner cold start viscosity means oil reaches critical components like turbo bearings and cam phasers faster during that vulnerable startup window. If you are in a northern climate and experiencing hard winters, check whether your specific EcoBoost generation approves 0W30. Many do, and the cold start protection improvement is meaningful. Using the wrong viscosity in the wrong direction, running 10W30 when 5W30 is specified, thickens the oil beyond what the engine's oil passages are designed for, restricts flow to the turbocharger and variable cam timing system, and can trigger cam phaser rattles even when the phasers themselves are in good condition. I have seen clean, well-maintained EcoBoost engines develop cam phaser symptoms purely because the owner switched to a heavier viscosity, thinking it would be better for a high-mileage engine. It was not. Always run the spec viscosity for your specific engine generation. Mistake 2, not checking the oil level between changes. This might sound basic, it might sound like something only people who know nothing about cars do wrong, but I have seen too many EcoBoost engines with catastrophic damage caused by owners who simply never checked the oil level between changes. EcoBoost engines consume oil, and Ford has not been as transparent about that as they should be. The 3.5-liter EcoBoost, the 2.7-liter EcoBoost, and the 1.5-liter EcoBoost all have documented histories of oil consumption that exceeds what most owners would consider normal. Ford's official standard for acceptable oil consumption on these engines is 1 quart per 2,000 miles. Read that again, 1 quart per 2,000 miles. If you change your oil at 7,500 miles and never check the level in between, you could be running nearly 4 quarts low by the time you pull in for a change. On a 3.5-liter EcoBoost that holds about 6 quarts, that means operating at barely 1/3 capacity. Low oil level drops oil pressure throughout the entire engine. The turbocharger bearings require continuous pressurized oil flow to survive. When there is not enough oil film to fully separate the spinning shaft from the bearing surfaces, metal contacts metal. Wear accelerates. The turbo shaft develops play. Within a few thousand miles under those conditions, a working turbo can become a failed turbo. The cam phaser system is equally vulnerable. Ford's variable cam timing system uses oil pressure to advance and retard cam timing based on engine load and speed. When oil level is low and pressure drops, the cam phasers cannot maintain proper position. The solenoids that control oil flow to the phasers start cycling erratically to compensate, and you will hear the characteristic EcoBoost cam phaser rattle on cold starts. Over time, the phaser actuators wear out prematurely because they are constantly hunting for oil pressure that is not there. Check your oil every 1,000 miles on an EcoBoost. Not every other fill-up, every 1,000 miles. It takes 45 seconds. Pull the dipstick, wipe it, reinsert it, pull it again, and read the level. If you are more than half a quart low, add oil before you drive further. Keep a quart of the correct full synthetic in your truck at all times. This single habit, more than any other maintenance practice, extends EcoBoost engine life. If you are consistently consuming oil at a rate that burns through a quart every 2,000 miles or faster, have your PCV system inspected. The positive crankcase ventilation system on EcoBoost engines is prone to failure, and a degraded PCV system forces more oil vapor into the intake tract. That accelerates both oil consumption and the carbon buildup problem that plagues these direct injection engines. A PCV valve replacement is a $40 to $80 repair that can dramatically reduce oil consumption. Do not ignore high consumption by just topping off every time. Find the cause. Mistake 1. Using the wrong oil after an engine flush. Here it is. The number one oil mistake that is destroying EcoBoost engines, and it is one that some Ford dealerships are partly responsible for enabling. Engine flushes, combined with incorrect post-flush oil selection, have caused more EcoBoost failures than almost any other single maintenance error I have seen in 15 years. Flushes are chemical products you add to old oil before draining it. You add the flush chemical, idle the engine for 10 to 15 minutes, then drain everything and refill with fresh oil. The theory is that you are cleaning the engine internals and giving the fresh oil a clean environment to do its job. For a heavily sludged engine that has been neglected, this can sound like a logical solution. Here is why it is catastrophic for EcoBoost engines specifically. The flush chemical is a powerful solvent. It does dissolve deposits. But on a high-mileage EcoBoost engine, where years of normal operation have created light varnish deposits on components, those deposits are actually serving a functional purpose. The varnish on worn seals and gaskets has partially filled microscopic irregularities and is helping them seal. The flush dissolves that varnish. The seals suddenly start leaking. Oil that was staying inside the engine starts moving places it should not. More importantly, the flush chemical does not fully drain out with the old oil. A percentage of it remains in the engine, coating surfaces and mixing with the new oil you put in. Flush chemicals dramatically reduce oil viscosity when they mix with fresh oil. They strip the additive package. They reduce film strength. The new oil you just paid $30 for is now compromised before the engine has even made a single revolution with it. The turbocharger bearings, which are the most sensitive oiled components in the entire EcoBoost system, are now being lubricated by diluted compromised oil that has significantly reduced film strength. In the first few thousand miles after a flush, when the engine is still running some concentration of flush chemical mixed into the fresh oil, turbo bearing wear can accelerate dramatically. I have seen EcoBoost turbos fail within 8,000 miles of an engine flush that was done at a quick lube shop. And here is where the dealership problem comes in. Quick lube services, including some dealer service lanes, routinely upsell engine flushes as preventive maintenance. They are cheap to perform, they generate revenue, and they sound like a good idea to an owner who has never heard otherwise. The technician adds the flush chemical, idles the engine, drains it, and puts in whatever oil is in the shop inventory. Sometimes that oil is the correct Ford-specified full synthetic. Sometimes it is not. Either way, the damage from the flush chemical contamination is already in motion. If you have been told you need an engine flush, my strong recommendation is to decline it on any turbocharged EcoBoost engine. Instead, if you are concerned about sludge buildup from previous neglect, perform 2 accelerated oil changes. Change the oil now with the correct full synthetic. Drive 3,000 miles, change it again. The fresh synthetic oil itself will suspend and carry out a significant portion of sludge and varnish with each change. It is slower than a flush, but it does not destroy your seals, does not compromise your fresh oil, and does not send your turbocharger into an accelerated wear cycle. If an engine flush has already been performed on your EcoBoost and you are now experiencing turbo noise, oil leaks from previously dry seals, or a rough idle, have the engine inspected immediately. Change the oil again with full synthetic, even if it has only been 1,000 miles since the flush. Getting the residual flush chemical out of the system as quickly as possible is the priority. Have your turbo inspected for shaft play by a qualified technician. Early turbo bearing wear is often detected before complete failure if you catch it within 10,000 miles. There it is. 5 oil mistakes that are quietly destroying EcoBoost engines across the country. Running cheap conventional oil instead of the full synthetic that Ford requires. Stretching oil changes to the maximum 10,000 mile interval on engines known for fuel dilution. Using the wrong viscosity or an oil that does not carry Ford's WSSM 2C945A specification. Never checking the oil level on engines that consume oil at a documented rate. And performing engine flushes that compromise the very oil meant to protect those vulnerable turbo bearings and cam phasers. These are not edge cases. Every week in shops like mine, EcoBoost engines come in with problems that trace directly back to one or more of these mistakes. turbocharger replacements that run $2,000 or more, cam phaser jobs that can climb past $3,500 once you replace the timing chains and guides and tensioners along with the phasers themselves. Complete engine replacements on trucks with under 100,000 miles. The engines are capable of going 200,000 or 300,000 miles with proper care. The care is not complicated, it is not expensive. It is the right oil at the right intervals, with the level checked regularly, and the wisdom to avoid so-called maintenance shortcuts that do more harm than good. Take 10 minutes this weekend, check your oil level, look at what is on the dipstick. If it is dark brown or black before you have hit your change interval, you are overdue. If the level is significantly low, you have a consumption issue that needs attention. And the next time you pull into the parts store for an oil change, walk past the $15 conventional jugs and pick up the full synthetic that actually meets Ford's specification. Your EcoBoost will repay that decision with years of reliable operation. If this video helped you, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell because we are covering more Ford-specific maintenance topics that the dealerships are not telling you about. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these mistakes you are making. And if you know another EcoBoost owner who needs to see this, share this video with them right now before their next oil change. I will see you in the next one.